What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next, got an unboxing, about $4,000 in books, just 2 books in here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about upgrading your keys. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. Really appreciate it, all the subscriptions and the likes and the views. It's been great. Makes these videos very enjoyable to make, and I like talking with everybody in the comments, so I really appreciate all the comments. So I've got one box here. There should be just 2 books in here, 2 graded books, and actually both books that I have copies of already, but like I've talked about in a number of videos, I can't seem to pass up on a deal when I see one. If I have the money available, if I've sold books recently or something like that, and I see a book come up for sale and I think it's a good price, I buy it. Part of that is that you never know when that deal is going to come up again, and so I know I see people comment on things like claim sales and things like that, where they'll say, "Oh, I would have bought that book, but I already have a copy." And it's like, if it's a really good price, why not buy another copy? You can buy that copy. You can either upgrade your existing copy or just flip that book and buy something else. But if you see something's a really good deal, I don't see any reason to pass on it because you already have a copy. There's nothing in the rules of collecting that says you can't have more than one copy of a book. And I'm definitely guilty of that. When they're key books I really like, books that I'm speccing on, whatever it might be, I will definitely buy multiple copies of books. So with this, one of them I now actually have 3 copies of that book. The other one I have 2, and it was kind of fun with these because just this week I watched Comic Tom, and he had Golden Age Guru on this week, and they were talking about some big sales which included some Golden Age books. And I don't know, it's always fun when you see those books pop up, books that you have on those videos, because he's one of the most watched people in comics. Whether you like him or not, it doesn't really matter. He's one of the most watched people in comics, and so when they talk about these books, it gets attention. It brings attention to them, and so they actually talked about both of these books that I just happened to pick up. It wasn't my sale. It wasn't me that had purchased the ones that they actually talked about, but they did talk about both of these. And the first one here is, let's see here, a book that I would have shown in, unboxing maybe, it might have been a couple months ago now, but it is Ghost Comics number 2. And the reason that they were talking about this book is that they were actually talking about a sale of Ghost Comics number 6, and Jeff, or Golden Age Guru, had mentioned this book as well as being probably the most desired book in the run. I think that's 6. I think 6 is the most desired book in the run, but I think it's between 2 and 6. I think this issue and 6 are the 2 best covers, 2 most in-demand covers from this run. But there are a bunch of great books from the Ghost Comics run. I've talked about this a number of times. If you're interested in pre-code horror, if you're interested in like the Good Girl art type covers, Ghost Comics are an incredible option. There's a bunch of great covers, and a lot of them are done by Maurice Whitman, including this cover as well as Ghost Comics number 6. And you can see why these books are in demand. It's got this creepy pre-code horror component to it. You've got this attractive woman on the cover. It's a lingerie cover, but it's a nice looking copy. It's a 3.0. Obviously a tough book to get in a higher grade, especially with all the black there. And but happy to pick up a second copy of this book. And I do happen to have my other copy right here, which is a little bit nicer, and this is my 4.5, so I have 2 of those. So it was, like I said, it's cool seeing these books get talked about, because they're books that I like to talk about, and I like seeing kind of a little more mainstream, bigger channel talking about the Golden Age comics, because that also really helps bring people's attention to them and just see how much cool stuff there is out there from the Golden Age that you can try to find. Now, the second book, this is the book that they were actually talking about the recent record sale for. And now the record sale was for a 5.5. This one is a 4.5, and this is Ghost Comics number 6. So this is that other book. This is these are the two, like I said, that I think are the two biggest books in this run, the two most in-demand books in this run. If you watch my top 20 video that I did on the top 20 horror books in my collection, it included Ghost Comics 6 and Ghost Comics 2. And this one is actually an upgrade to my existing copies of this book. And with this one, I actually have 2 copies. And so I have a 1.8, and then I have this raw copy that I intend to get graded. That's probably something like a 2.5. It's got this chip out of the corner there, just like this one has a chip out of the corner down here, but this copy in general has a lot less wear on the cover. It's always tough to tell through the Mylar and everything, but this one, it's actually a pretty glossy copy. It has that kind of like a subscription type or like full-length crease, but this one just has there's a lot of wear on this cover. It's a lot less glossy, just more worn. But it was I was surprised to see these books get talked about on that channel, so I thought that was cool to see that the pre-code horror, the Golden Age books really get that attention. And the record sale for the 5.5 for this one was, I think, like $3,900. So it kind of gives you an idea what the price range is for these. They are not cheap. It is there are definitely more affordable books in the run, and that's why I think the Ghost Comics run is so great, because you have books in that run where you can get nice mid-grade copies in the few $100 range, $300 to $500, and then you've got copies like this that'll be a few $1,000s in that mid-grade range. So you have a lot of options. There are some great covers. Now, the other thing that I wanted to touch on with this was upgrading your books, or kind of like leveling up the books in your collection. And this Ghost Comics 6 is an example of how I do that, and one of the ways that I do that. And so, like you can see, I happen to have these 2 copies, this 1.8 and this 2.5. And the 1.8 I had bought specifically to sell because I got it at the same time as the 2.5, and I wanted it as a means to kind of like reduce my cost in that book. And the 2.5 was going to be my keeper copy, but then this book came up and it ended up being what I felt was a good price, and so I picked it up, and I'm going to then use my 1.8 and my 2.5 as a means to kind of like reduce my cost in that book. So keeping the best copy that I have and then selling the other copies. And so that's one way that you can kind of upgrade your books. And the way that I do recommend doing it is don't sell the lower grade copy until you get that higher grade copy, because you never know how the prices of these books could change. I mean, prices do drop in comics. I mean, we've seen that. We saw that last year when there was a big drop in comic prices when the pandemic started. And then this year we had this huge spike in prices earlier in the year in kind of the April through June timeframe. And they've largely been retreating. They're starting to turn back up again now, but they had largely been retreating. So you can have drops in prices. But if you have a copy of that book and something does happen, there is some announcement, there's somebody that talks about it and caused that book to spike in price, then you at least have a copy that's going up with that change in price. And then you can pick up a higher grade copy. That one that you had, the lower grade, has gone up as well, and then you just sell the lower grade one and keep the higher grade one. And so you have that money that has been used then effectively to reduce the cost, the amount of money that you have in that comic. And I've done that with a number of books. I'm actually planning on making a separate video about that, about kind of some ways to upgrade your books. But this is just one way that I did it, and I thought this was a good example here because that's what I'm doing with this one specifically. So I hope you found this video interesting. Just a little tip on one way that you could potentially improve the books that are in your collection. If you did enjoy this, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here if you'd like to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.